Alright battlers, welcome back to a brand new Go Battle League video. We are taking on rank 10 opponents. Let's get right into these battles. I have been doing my best to climb the rankings of the Go Battle League. As you can see there on the left side of the screen, that is the team I've been using. That is my secret sauce. I went from 2,500 all the way up to almost 2,900, and I'm hoping I can do it before we hit the end of the season. So you do see there the Melmetal lead. My opponent swapped out into their Meganium. I'm going to actually swap out here into my own Meganium. Now, the only water counter on this team is Meganium itself. Granted, we see some Mud Boys, but not a whole lot in the Go Battle League. I think you'd agree we see more Azumarill in general. I do have Toxicroak on my team as well because that Sludge Bomb really offers some great coverage against Azumarill in some close matchups. So we are actually able to KO the Meganium, and the most important part there is I was able to maintain switch priority. So here I'm going to fire with the Frenzy Plant against the Dugong and force that first shield. A lot of experienced trainers will look at this Dugong and realize that something is a little bit off. I realized this kind of midway through the battle, but it's not using Ice Shard. I make a really bad blind switch here, Melmetal into Deoxys, and these counters are going to add up really quickly. I'm just so used to blind swapping, and I just kind of got carried away here. But my opponent is allowing 2 Rock Slides through, which is really good for me. Actually knocking his shield there, hoping to get to a 3rd Rock Slide, but we are not able to do it. Deoxys will farm us down, but I come in here with the Toxicroak. I hope my opponent doesn't have Psycho Boost. They hit me with the Rock Slide, but I do spend my first shield. My opponent still does have a shield, but as you can tell here, I am already to the Mud Bomb. Gonna go ahead and fire that off. Does a little bit of chip damage to this Dugong, and I know after the Icy Wind, it will do even less. I'm gonna spend my first shield here, and my opponent still is packing his shield, so you might wonder how I'm going to win this match. The Frost Breath energy generation is just not really in the same league as Ice Shard, so we're actually able to beat the Dugong to another charge attack. Going to throw the Mud Bomb and clean up a very close game 1. So these are highlights of my battles so far. As my ranking continues to go up, I'm facing more and more rank 10 battlers. Here we see Melmetal into that Azumarill. I swap out here into Meganium. My opponent decides to stay in, so I'm definitely going to grab this first shield with the Frenzy Plant, which we do. My opponent is going to go for the Ice Beam here, hoping to weaken Meganium or take the shield. I'm actually going to let that attack through, and then I work up to a second Frenzy Plant, but my opponent makes a switch. Here comes Galvantula. Galvantula has been a lot of fun in the Go Battle League. I know a lot of trainers are using this, and because it actually became widely available to a lot of trainers, you didn't have to get it through eggs anymore because the spawns were so frequent just a few days ago. I'm sure a lot of trainers are experimenting with it. The Spooter is really, really good. That's just a nickname that we call it in the community. It's Spider, but Spooter. So here we go with Melmetal into this Galvantula. Bug type is going to take super effective from the Rock Slides, but I'm actually going to farm up that Galvantula with Toxicroak. I like Toxicroak with energy because it gives me more options against that Azumarill in the back. Speaking of, here it is. I'm going to throw the Sludge Bomb here, and that will KO the Azumarill. Out comes Umbreon. My opponent is going to leave the game. Going to the next game here, Melmetal is going to lead into Bastiodon. So Bastiodon is something else that I love using as a lead. A lot of trainers like to lead their flyers, and my opponent swaps into Haunter. Now, if you look at my team, I don't have anything that can really counter Haunter, so this is actually a perfect situation for me because my best overall counter for Haunter, as wacky as it seems, is going to be Melmetal. So I do have some energy advantage because I was able to fire off a couple of Thunder Shocks against Bastiodon, so I'm actually in good shape. I'm just going to match shields here and pray that I can get to another Rock Slide before Haunter gets to another Shadow Punch, but we CMP tie. This is actually really bad for me. My only chance there was to try to hit that Haunter with Rock Slide because the shields are down and these Shadow Balls are going to fly, but my opponent holds their energy too long and is actually going to get KO'd by Frenzy Plant. In comes the Meganium here. I'm going to go ahead and fire off a Frenzy Plant to try to weaken this up. I do have my Toxicroak in the back, and I can tank a Frenzy Plant, but I don't want to get hit by Earthquake, so I had to be very careful about when I swap in my Pokemon. I'm actually going to fire off another Frenzy Plant here to try to weaken this Meganium, and it is deep into the red. My opponent swaps back into Bastiodon, and here comes Toxicroak. I really love this team because it has double, I guess, fighting style attackers. You have the superpower with Melmetal, and then you have Meganium, or excuse me, then you have Toxicroak's counters. So Meganium will fire off the Earthquake, but that's perfectly okay. One more Vine Whip will win us a very close game. Going into this match, Melmetal into Altaria. A lot of trainers like to lead their flyers, and Melmetal catches all of them. In comes the Azumarill, and I go here into Meganium. So you might have noticed my swap was really fast there. I'm actually experimenting with a kind of a new tactic. Somebody mentioned on Twitter that you can see the Pokemon's typings up on the top right corner of the screen before they even swap in. So I'm actually looking at the top of the screen, and if I see Fairy and Water, I know it's Azumarill, so I just blind swap into Meganium as quickly as possible. So I think that's a tactic that a lot of trainers can use maybe later on, maybe in the Forest Cup if you participate in the Silph Arena, or if you kind of have an idea of what the meta is for Go Battle League, you can safe swap that way. I mean, there are some close cases. For example, when Deoxys comes in, it's only Psychic, and that could easily be Hypno, because Hypno is a pure Psychic as well, so definitely watch out for that and don't swap too fast. So in comes Cast Form. Actually going to fire off the Mud Bomb here with Toxicroak and draw that first shield. Trying to get to another Mud Bomb, and this is actually not good for me, but I'm hoping to take this second shield from Cast Form. And it actually turns out I can farm down. So very gutsy there, but I'm going to go straight for the Sludge Bomb here against my opponent's Altaria. And working up to another Sludge Bomb. Toxicroak, again, a really, really great Pokemon because that Sludge Bomb is Stab, and I actually swap here immediately into Melmetal, and the Rock Slide will crush the bird for the win. Going into this game against S2 Team Neal, I believe, I do lead that Melmetal to Stunfisk. So as you notice with my team, I am very, very weak to ground. Both Melmetal and Toxicroak stand no chance, and my only counter is that Meganium. So my opponent does swap in here with their Clefable. I'm actually going to continue to farm up, and my opponent's unable to get to a charge attack. Frenzy Plant is just so overpowered. I just wallop that Clefable. Gonna fire off another Frenzy Plant here, and that will be the Stunfisk, as we could tell by the typings at the top right corner of the screen. Here comes the Mud Bomb. Actually going to stick it out here with Meganium. My opponent bringing in their Stunfisk again against a Meganium tells me they have no real answer to Meganium in the back, so I'm definitely going to burn both of my shields here and try to outpace the Stunfisk. My opponent does swap into Registeel, but I've got an answer for that as well. I really love the Toxicroak and Meganium core because Toxicroak can really threaten Registeel with the Mud Bombs and counters, and Meganium can threaten Registeel with Earthquake, excuse me. And then with Azumarill, you have that Frenzy Plant from your Meganium and then your Sludge Bomb from Toxicroak. So they both have really good play against the strongest core in the Go Battle League. My opponent is in a really good position here. I decided to bring in the Melmetal, but they just do not have enough energy to go around. Melmetal is so clutch in the Go Battle League. We get to that superpower, and that is going to be just enough to wrap up this game. Jumping into this game, this is actually an earlier variation of this team where I was still using Bastiodon. So Bastiodon is a viable substitute for Melmetal if you want to run a similar team comp. It's a very interesting Pokemon to use. I love it because you really don't need to give it shields. It's kind of like having an extra shield or two because it just takes so much damage. I'm actually not sure what this Minoon is planning to do. I thought it might be a Grass Knot, so I actually shield up. Probably unnecessary, but here comes a second Thunderbolt, so maybe a good thing that we did spend the shield there. However, Bastiodon did squash the Minun. I am waiting for my opponent to bring out a Bastiodon counter, and there is the Vigoroth. I go here into Meganium. Now, the reason I didn't go into Toxicroak is because I knew as soon as I swapped in my next Pokemon, Hypno would come out to answer it. So I did not want to risk my Toxicroak getting lined up with Hypno. Instead, I'm going to let Melmetal deal with Hypno and then use my Toxicroak to finish off that Vigoroth in the back. So my opponent does take that Frenzy Plant. We are at one shield each. My opponent did get a couple of confusions there, so I do have some energy. However, the threat of a Focus Blast from Hypno is very small. Not a lot of trainers are running that in the Go Battle League. We're going to Stone Edge that Hypno. In comes my Toxicroak to face off here against Vigoroth. So I did make the forced swap because my opponent is just going to continue to farm energy with counter. My opponent actually leaves the match there. So we did win that one. Going into the next one, Melmetal into Whiscash. This is a very bad situation for us. We're going to swap into Meganium, and the nightmare scenario continues. This opponent actually has the perfect team to counter my team. If you want to be, I guess, the speedy team, I guess you could call it, of Melmetal, Toxicroak, and Meganium, bring Whiscash, Skarmory, and whatever this trainer has in the back, because this is a really, really tough match. I'm actually going to throw the Earthquake there, get farmed down. And then my opponent here does have enough energy for Flash Cannon. Whatever it is though, I can't afford to spend my shields because my only real answer to that Whiscash, I guess, is going to be Toxicroak. I could try to finagle my way around and try to maybe double superpower the Whiscash, but it's so risky that you might get farmed up with those mud shots in the end. My opponent's actually going to fire up another Sky Attack. That will take down Melmetal. Toxicroak is all alone with 2 shields, and this game is just a question of pacing. This Whiscash does have some energy from before. It did get some mud shots off, so it's actually going to be able to outpace me in terms of the match. I'm going to fire off my first Mud Bomb here and predictably draw my opponent's first shield. I'm going to match shields here, shielding up this Mud Bomb. That Pokemon would take a lot less damage from my Mud Bomb than I would from theirs. If they hit me with one, it's pretty much GG's. So here we go, maybe a little bit of lag there, but no big deal. Mud Bomb is going to come through. GG's trainer. Going into this next game against Sophique37, I'm going to lead that Melmetal into Wigglytuff. So Melmetal's steel typing does help it resist these fairy type charms. I like to work up to double rock slides and then throw both of them, hoping that my opponent realizes that the damage is going to pour on and they need to do something, shield or swap out or something. I'm just trying to put a lot of pressure on Wigglytuff. I actually swap into Toxicroak and we farm the rest of the Wiggles down. So out comes my opponent's Marowak. This is actually a beautiful situation for us because we got those 2 counters off against Wigglytuff, allowing us to drop that Mud Bomb earlier. This is not a flat matchup. We did come into this with an energy lead. My opponent does fire up the Bone Club there, and I'm actually going to shield and then throw another Mud Bomb. I do want to maintain switch advantage here. Even though I swapped in, I want to force my opponent's Marowak off the battlefield because I'm very confident that what I have in the back can work. We do encounter a lot of Go Battle lag there, and I'm actually going to hold off on the Vine Whips there after I fire off a couple. My opponent is going to throw their charge move, which will be Bone Club. Gonna fire at the Frenzy Plant here. That might be a little bit of an energy advantage for me because of the lag, but it's really unfortunate. I mean, I tried to stop there, but you never know. Sometimes it looks like the screen is stopped, and then your opponent suddenly unleashes a Shadow Ball, and you're left wondering where the energy came from. So they're actually going to leave that match, but GG's trainer, I apologize for the lag. There's not much we can do as battlers, but we try to get through it. So this game actually happened today. Speaking of Go Battle lag, screens were white, and then suddenly Registeel has a Focus Blast. So not a good situation. We're going to try to pull this match back though, battlers. He's going to go ahead and fire off the Focus Blast, and after the spinning wheel of death spins up there kind of mocking us for a few seconds, we are finally able to get off a Thundershock. Here's a few more. I'm actually just going to swap into Toxicroak and see what happens. I'm hoping to catch the Focus Blast, but he fires off a Flash Cannon. In comes Haunter, and I'm going to go straight for the Mud Bomb. I think the lag got the better of my opponent here because they do not shield Haunter. So that was the key to this match. This is a really kind of straightforward game for me after this, because I do still have my Meganium at full health and then my Melmetal. So I'm going to drop some Rock Slides here, and I am really confident going to this situation, having my Meganium with Earthquake in the back and 2 shields. I knew that wasn't an Earthquake because in spite of the lag, I think I was able to count the Vine Whips there. So my opponent does shield there. I'm going to fire off the Superpower here to force this final shield on Registeel or take a huge chunk of health. My opponent actually does fire off their charge move here after swapping in Meganium. So I'm going to shield up that Flash Cannon and just try to outpace my opponent to the Earthquake, which we CMP tie. Actually going to shield up here because, relatively speaking, this Flash Cannon would do more damage to me than the Frenzy Plants from my opponent's Meganium. So trainers, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the new layout, let me know. If you want to see more Go Battle League, let me know. Tomorrow I do have a Forest Cup video loaded and ready to go, so can't wait to get back into it. Gonna try to do daily uploads starting today, so get hyped for the content. Please leave me a like if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think about the new layout, and if you really enjoyed it, take a moment and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.